You have been at this work for a very long time.
4 decades.
We need to learn from you, Vandana, Dr. Shiva, because that story that you just told of people finally fighting a corporate plan, and fighting Condoleezza Rice's plan, by the sound of it, who, let's not forget, served for years on the board of an oil corporation, is something that in this country happens very rarely. People try, but they feel overwhelmed, outnumbered. And for the most part, corporations are calling the shots in this country, whether it is British Petroleum or Massey. They're getting away literally with murder. Do you have advice for us?
Well, I think the first thing is we really need to recognize that the corporation is a fiction that has been created. It has been assigned a human personality, a legal personality, and now it's trying to dispossess people of their democratic rights and is trying to dispossess nature of her rights. I think we are at a watershed for human evolution. We will either defend the rights of people and the earth, and then for that we have to dismantle the rights corporations have assigned to themselves, or corporations will in the next 2 or 3 decades destroy this planet in terms of human possibility.
Talk about how their effect has been felt, how their control has been felt in India.
Well, it would take a 5-hour discussion, but I'll be quick. Monsanto took over the seed supply through its BT cotton. We've lost 250,000 farmers who've committed suicide because the BT cotton is basically a way of collecting royalty. Monsanto was taking out 10 billion rupees of royalty every year.
Now, BT is a genetically engineered strain of cotton.
A toxic cotton where they put a toxic gene so that the plant itself will kill the pests, and it doesn't. It doesn't kill the pest. It was designed for the bollworm, and it starts to kill beneficial species, and we've done studies on how the soil organisms are dying. But the seed monopoly is killing farmers.
How?
In the high costs of seed used to cost 5 to 7 rupees a kilogram. Monsanto took the prices up to about 4,000 rupees a kilogram. That's an 8,000 rupee jump. It requires more pesticide, it requires irrigation. The package of debt pushes the farmers to suicide, and when they can't pay back, the agents of Monsanto, the seed agent, the chemical agents come and say, now your land is ours. That's the day the farmer ends his life. There's a huge, this Environment Day on 5th of June, I'm going to join the people on coastal Orissa. This area was devastated by the cyclone in 1998. They've built their lives back. It's prosperous. They grow palm, this wonderful betel nut that Indians love to eat after a meal because it's excellent digestive. They have wonderful rice. They have wonderful fish and a prosperous economy. That area has been identified for a takeover of a massive steel plant, largely for exports, with a captive port and a captive mine. And when we started to deal with this, it was called a Korean company, POSCO. When we went into the details, it's owned by Wall Street. It's owned by Mr. Buffett, who comes to try and teach us in India how to give, and we wrote an open letter to him saying, Mr. Buffett, stop grabbing first. Then
Warren Buffett was there with the Gates and with others talking to Indian investors about how to encourage investment in their country.
Absolutely. And of course, countries like India are seen as the place for investment, whether it be Walmart, whom we've stopped so far from having its retail outlets, or the Cargills who'd like to totally control the food economy of 1.2 billion people. We might be poor, but we still have to eat. And what could be a more secure market than getting the basics? We stopped the privatization of Delhi's water supply, where again corporations wanted to sell us our own water back to us at 10 times the price. So no matter which direction you look, the corporations are trying to appropriate people's economies, destroy democracy, because which democracy would say, take away our seeds, give us more nuclear, give us more toxics? Every democracy would vote for sanity. Therefore, democracy has to be destroyed. And of course, nature has to be trampled on. In the last 2 decades of globalization, I have seen more devastation than in all of my life.
Let's play a clip from a film that talks about this question of the seeds.
seed is the most important input in agriculture, and it is the most precious thing to a farmer. And now they have been robbed, stolen by these MNCs. Their seeds are not sustainable. Our seeds, farmer seeds, is sustainable. They have sustained for 10,000 years. They would sustain for million years ahead. And the one who is in control of seed is in control of agriculture, control of food, control of economy.
The economy, and we could add the democracy. You've said that you can't have globalization, really, and democracy, the will of the people.
Because globalization, as we are seeing it today, is a corporate globalization.
Yeah. But we're told in this country, we are right now working harder for lower wages, but we're told that our future as a nation depends on the success of the very people that are exploiting us, the very corporations that are working us into the ground.
I think the American people should see that the corporations have abandoned them long ago. That people will have to build their own economies, people will have to rebuild democracy as a living democracy in this country. And the corporations belong to no land, no country, no people. They have no loyalty to anything except their baseline, their profits. And the profits today are scales of profits that you can't imagine. It's become illegitimate criminal profits because these profits are being extracted at the cost of life. The issue of seed, the reason I started the seed-saving movement in India as a program of our foundation, which is now an independent body, was basically to both save biodiversity and the richness that we have received from our ancestors in nature, as well as to defend the freedom of our farmers to save seeds. Otherwise, you have a dictatorship. You have a food dictatorship, you have a seed dictatorship, you have a water dictatorship. We are being offered a dictatorship over life, and not for life in permanence, but life for a short time. And we need to defend life and its freedom forever.
You were very extraordinary even as a young person in that you decided to go and become a physicist and acquire a doctorate in physics, I think, quantum physics at that. And in your contribution to this book, The Rights of Nature, The Case for a Universal Declaration of the Rights of Mother Earth, that we talked about with Maud Barlow on this program, you start your segment quoting Einstein, where he says the significant problems of today will not be solved with the kind of thinking, that's at the same level as it was when we created these problems. We've got so far in physics. How come we've come so little distance in economics or human relations? We're still using kind of 19th century theory.
I think that's part of the problem, that you have a mechanical worldview, which is precisely the kind of worldview that is causing the problems, an idea of separation, an idea of separation between people, an idea of separation between humans and nature. And that idea of separation had a name in South Africa. It was called apartheid, which means separate.
So if apartheid is kind of the human relations version of classical physics?
It is absolutely the human relation version of classical physics, and we need to overcome the apartheid that we've established, one, against nature, and two, against ordinary people who are being told your life doesn't count. If you can't make a living, if you are a farmer fighting for your land in Jaitapur, we will shoot you dead. The nuclear power plant and the profits of the Areva company, the French company that's setting up these plants, is far more important. The power of the state joining with private corporations, which is the new phenomena we see post-globalization. I call it the emergence of the corporate state. And the corporate state must become a fascist state. Because when government is that closely married to big money and starts to serve big money, then it must disenfranchise ordinary people of their freedoms and their rights.